an opportunity for us to work in the community, or for people to work in the community to make a living wage, because as everybody knows, rents have gone up astronomically in that period, and to not, people that often don't have college degrees are unable to access those kinds of rents. So as an example, when we first started talking about M-Crown, 60% AMI, that average median income, was equal to $40,000. Now, at 40% AMI, the salary requirement is $60,000. Do you hear that shift? So one of the things that we're really concerned about, without being too technical, with mandatory inclusionary housing has 3 levels. MIH1, which is about market, MIH2, which is about 80% AMI, with a blend. So you have a few apartments that are at 40%, but you have more apartments that can skew as high as 130% AMI. And MIH3, which gives us the best opportunity for affordability. So what we had to do after the 3 of us had gotten that news is that we huddled around what was the most important things, the things that we have to absolutely redline with city planning. Because my committee voted last Thursday that we voted initially to support with conditions. Now we are not going to support this as the committee voted unless the 3 key elements are included. So I'm going to tell you it's part of our action item. I'm not going to read it verbatim. I hope all board members took the opportunity to look at the action items. So the 3 things that are very important is that MIH options 1 and 2 are removed completely from the application. Right? So the incentive floor area ratio, which gives bonus in what was the industrial nugget for jobs and job creations and for businesses that are light industrial use. There are arts-related, cultural, civic, and repair and production services. So again, within that zone, there is an opportunity for people who hopefully live in the community to be able to earn a decent living wage. And number 3, a city commitment of $10 million annually to fund free representation to tenants and small homeowners in Community District 8, including those persons who have their landlords in court, so there's no prejudice as to whether it's an affirmative or a defensive case. And Sarah has informed us what that means. Sometimes you can't bring action forward if you have a defensive case, which means you have a complaint against your landlord, correct? Or is it the opposite?
No, correct.
It's the opposite?
Correct.
It's correct, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Had to get the nod from the agencies. So we all, we will be submitted the original document. If we cannot get these things, we are withholding our support, and that was the motion that we had last week.
What does that mean? Nothing.
So one of the things that we'll do is that we'll notify all parties. So the parties included would be the council members that represent these districts. It will also include the Department of City Planning, and the Commissioner of City Planning. And the signal to us is that you're not friendly to what our community is interested in. I'd also like to stress to you overwhelmingly, because the argument becomes, do you want more apartments or do you want affordable apartments? And that's the Faustian choice they'd like us to make. We're loud and clear. We'd rather have fewer apartments with greater affordability. If we have to make a choice, it's imperative that we stop the displacement of community residents. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure there's an opportunity for affordability for people that currently live here.
That's good.
Questions, queries? Yes.
Just a point of clarification. So if you're withholding support, does that pull back the entire CB8 support, or?
So, we applied everything as a resolution, right? So we're saying because the board voted on the entire packet, so now we're basically holding everything hostage to the most important thing that we see from land use, that we have affordability within our plan.
Do you have any questions?
Hostage may not have been.
Yes, Dr.
Well, I just wanted to understand the process, like where we are in the approval process and where this is coming in.
So next week, it goes before city planning, and we've already had a city planning hearing. I'm sorry, next week it goes to council. We've already had the city planning hearing, right? So city council and our representative, has said that, or one of our representatives from the district has said that her red line is the affordability and the inclusion, because they call them uses. And our challenge is, because Lord knows, if I needed to save my life, I could not repeat what each use group was. But I do know that to have the opportunity for manufacturing and arts uses and repair is essential to keep the vitality of our community. You already have to travel for too many goods and services, right? So the process is going to be that it goes to city council, and that's where we have the argument, and our elected representatives are to be our backstop and our voices regarding that. So we'll see what happens. But again, the fact that we previously approved it with conditions, and now that we're making a motion and sending a letter to city planning, listen, we will withhold our support of this if it does not include these elements.
Dr. Lazar, and then
I guess I was wondering if there's been any news since last week about whether they scheduled the vote in city council? Okay. And will there be any further hearings in city council, or is that period already done with?
So they've had the hearing already, but after hearings there was discussion among colleagues, right? And the representative is the single largest voice within council, which is why I was surprised to hear Councilwoman Mealy say that her colleagues did not defer to her because, there's deference to members, right? That was very surprising to me. And just editorializing, knowing that your predecessors, including the Barons, have absolutely had deference to what they want, so that's a big statement right there. To understand that, it's a time where we have the opportunity to leverage many things, right? And, one of the things that we hope that we can leverage is the election cycle as well.
I just need something for clarification's sake. So, how many conditions did we actually set forth?
So I actually pulled it up on my computer, and I believe for housing there were 7 positions, and they included the zoning, they included the housing, they included the uses, right? Mm-hmm. But let me back it up a little bit.
But I also had
let me just back this up a little bit. One of the reasons why we were so disappointed, because in 2021, there was the Gowanus plan, which included many of the elements which we were requesting in this rezoning, and we've been queued up before Gowanus, in order to have our plan. So for city planning to say that, no, we're not gonna do this with AAMUP, but they did it with Gowanus, we have to
which
wonder.
is a much wider, affluent neighborhood size.
I was going to say, we have to wonder what the differences are, and then.
Why would you need to wonder? Why do you need to wonder?
And we didn't plan this, And then the other thing, the chair of the Zoning and Franchise Committee, Kevin Riley, represents Williamsbridge, and a couple of other neighborhoods in the Bronx, and they too are Williamsbridge in the Bronx. And so, we see that another zoning is coming forth in a much rounder community than Gowanus is. So the question becomes, is city planning trying not to set a precedent for something that was given to one community? And given that this was so carefully planned out, because as I said, there were no fewer than 38 meetings surrounding this, and to hear at the very last minute and not hear from city planning directly, because I will publicly say that I was not contacted, nor Ms. Witherspoon were contacted from the borough director, from city planning, nor the project manager around AAMUP. So that says a lot to me, right? And I'll let you make the inferences. So the motion is,
Wait, I wasn't finished with my questions. I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt you.
I just thought we were on the same.
No, not yet. But we're getting close. Did they reject from any other committees? Did they reject any of those resolutions? That's the thing I wasn't clear on.
No, but I'll say no but, right? Because specifically city planning was the entity that we were made aware of, that they had issues with our elements, right? To my knowledge, I don't know if sanitation or transportation have particular issues with our AMA. But remember, if we don't include the industrial uses, all we've done is created a residential plan and not a comprehensive plan for our community. And that's why we were all a little bit toasty.
And then my last question, thank you for that. And then my last question is, after we vote on this, what is our plan if they say, well, too bad?
We got an action plan.
Yay!
Sure.
Does that action plan include waiting for a new mayor?
No, we can't. And here's the thing, because some of the solutions that are being offered to us about this exclusion are absolutely unacceptable. And the reason why I'm not broadcasting them particularly right now is in order to come to a negotiation where we want to have, quote unquote, everybody wins, right? That you have to allow people to alter the perspectives, not necessarily in front of the public.
Does it include tariffs?
Absolutely not. What, the market went down 3,200 again? Please, nobody look at their 401k statements at the end of the, that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so the motion is the Housing and Land Board, Brooklyn Board Community 8 hereby notifies the Brooklyn Borough President, the City Planning Commission, and New York City Council, the parties, that the board's support for the approval of the Atlantic Avenue mixed-use plan is contingent upon, number one, MIH options 1 or 2 being removed from the application. Number 2, incentive for floor area ratios, floor for non-residential use, including 0.5 FAR, restricted to light industrial, arts-related, cultural, civic, and repair and production services uses. And number 3, a city commitment of $10 million annually to fund free representation to tenants and small homeowners in Community District 8, affirmative and defensive cases. Can I have a second?
Have you finished reading the rest, or you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. So the reading of the
Sorry, look, you know what, she's actually right. Thank you. So all were previously expressed in the board's resolution expressing conditioned approval for AAMUP. The parties are notified that a redevelopment plan without these elements is not supported by the board. Thank you. Yes.
I move to support the committee's recommendation.
Second.
So we have Dr. Lasser and Vicky Mitchell.
Thank you. As it should be.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay, now they get the votes.
See what we got. Kale Branch Mahal.
Yes.
Robert Callahan, yes. Edward Bellman.
Yes.
Diane Duke.
Yes.
Mika Gibbs.
Yes.
Mohammed Hassan. Ifari John McCabe. Yes. Francis Langley.
Yes.
Barbara LaPointe.
Yes.
Dr. Sarah Lazar.
Yes.
Lisa Maldonado.
Yes.
William Guillen.
Yes.
Fozzie Mensa.
Yes.
Vicky Mitchell.
Yes.
Ortiz Joyner.
Yes.
Drea Petway.
Yes.
Robert Puka.
Yes.
Dr. Khadijah Ramrak. Dr. Yahya Raji.
Yes.
Anika Roach.
Yes.
Connor Ross.
Yes.
Ezra Roth. Brian Saunders.
Yes.
Robin Smith.
Yes.
Meredith Staten.
Yes.
Katie Taylor.
Yes.
Dana Thompson.
Yes.
Mark Thurton.
Yes.
Kimberly Watson. Kirsten Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Sharon Wedderburn.
Yes.
Howard Winterwax.
Yes.
Deborah Young.
Yes.
That is 29 yeses, 0 no, 0 abstentions. The motion passes.
Thank you so much. Next up is SLA. Vice Chair Whittle.
Good evening, everybody. The SLA committee met on Monday, April